And welcome to the Westworld Morning After Show. I'm Patrick.
I'm Lynn.
And I'm Caitlin.
And today we're going to be talking about the Westworld show, Season 2, Episode 7.
And like this episode, like all other episodes, we're going to talk about spoilers. So if you don't like spoilers, then you should leave. Because after all, what's the pleasure of knowing a story if you can't discover the ending for yourself?
Very Anthony Hopkins of you.
Yeah, thank you.
How very Ford.
I felt like it was very uncanny. So
it was good. It was very good. Yeah, so episode 7 is called Les Écorchés. I'm sure I butchered that, but it's French and it means the tormentors.
Also, there's a type of illustration where it's a drawing of the human body without the skin. So we see a lot of that in like the opening credits of Westworld, the drones. So it could mean that. I think both could apply to this episode, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think this episode was jam-packed.
Jam-packed. The pacing is crazy. It's like super ramping up to obviously the climax, and it's just like one after another after another. I really like it, but it's also the time narratives are getting all scrambled.
It's hard to follow.
Yeah.
And everybody's dressed the same, so it's even harder to follow.
The only thing I like are the aspect ratio jumps. That's the only thing that's like anchoring me.
The only way that you know you're in a different timeline/area.
Yeah. But that doesn't even help me.
That doesn't even help with the timeline.
Yeah.
It just helps the fact that you're in a
bit.
reality or in a digital world. So that's like that's visual representation.
One reality or another reality.
But I think you had a good way of like dividing the timeline for this, right?
So I developed a timeline split called Before Strand and After Strand.
I felt like that's the most intuitive one, because I keep thinking like every time I see him, it gives me like, I don't know what timeline it is, but it gives me a current timeline-ish.
Yes. No,
like whenever
exactly.
I see him.
And that's what I think right now, especially in this episode. Anytime we saw Carl Strand, the one who arrives on the beach later.
Big, tall, bald Dallas guy.
Tall, bald Dallas guy who was from Vikings. That actor.
The show?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm like, oh, are you introducing another timeline? I don't know.
I would definitely visit Viking
I would go Viking World.
That'd be so cool.
I was thinking like they've
all
really,
the Norse mythology.
Well, that would be awesome, but they really blew the idea of product placement, because you could have like a new can of Coke and the other ones could have old cans of Coke, or something to show like, oh, these are older versions. We have none of that in the show.
No.
Oh, he
no
has an old
product
iPhone.
placement. No timeline help, all super jumpy. But yeah, so Carl Strand is kind of a good barometer of like, these things happened before he arrived on the beach, and we saw Bernard wake up, and these things happened afterward. So like, Bernard going into the cradle, BS. Before Strand.
I was like, yeah, no,
I
he
just
did
thought
go in the
in general,
cradle.
I'm like, that's BS. That guy sucks.
Teddy's getting bumped, his aggression, before Strand. But Teddy killing the guy, pummeling him into the ground, also before Strand.
Commando Teddy.
Yeah, Commando Teddy, also before Strand. Yeah, so it gets very confusing. It's very hard.
Yeah, it's very hard. So to talk about this very hard episode, let's instead ignore chronologically and just deal with story arcs. So the biggest one that we want to unpack is Bernard, Ford, Arnold, the cradle, the aspect ratio, everything. So
it's huge. It's exactly how we ended the last one. Bernard going into the cradle, and we ended it with some version of Bernard coming out.
Yeah, he says he's too soft.
Yeah, Ford tells
Ford
Bernard.
says he's too soft, and then he also wants to, that's Ford's way of getting out of the cradle. Right?
I think so. I think this was a long-term ploy by Bernard by Ford to exit the cradle using Bernard.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
Think he knew with the creation of Delos, like we saw in the previous episodes, Delos devolved almost immediately the first time he was ever recreated and brought out into a host body. And Ford knows that that's what awaits him if he himself steps out of the cradle again.
In like a shell of his own body.
Correct. And so instead, he kind of is using Bernard as like his chauffeur?
I would dare say a Trojan horse kind of thing. No, I mean, honestly, that's really what's going on.
It is.
But why isn't he, why wouldn't, I mean, because Bernard is kind of devolving. He's getting a little, so why is it better for Ford to use kind of an already occupied host than just use his own shell?
I think that's a really good question.
I'm just from a performance standpoint, I'm so happy to see Anthony Hopkins back.
Yeah.
He's not in the shadows. He's not just a voice. He's actually there. He's in the world that we saw last season, or the idolized version of how the world should work. And, you know, again, he snaps the finger, everyone stops. You have all those catchings, and he has just all those little phrases and little, like, poetic ways to explain something complex, which I just that delights me so much.
Or he taps the player piano.
To make it go, and we had the it has all the weird piano sounds. I don't do a good player piano impression. That being said, I think it's neat because we kind of get a glimpse as to how Bernard is different than what Delos is. It's a big takeaway I had from that, right?
And how the creation of Bernard was fostered in a different way.
Yeah.
How he came about separate from Delos with his body. We see it when Ford's telling him in the house that Arnold had built in the cradle, actually. He's telling him that, this is where we brought you to, like, test you. And we saw that last episode, him and Dolores. Dolores was testing his fidelity, which seemed obvious at the time, but now we know it went back even further for more years than we thought it did.
So my question is, can other hosts test other hosts for fidelity? It seems like kind of a feedback loop.
Well, when they're testing for fidelity, they're testing
for consistency.
Right, they're testing that host consistency against their human counterpoint. So yes, a host could test a host, but it wouldn't really be a host testing a host. It'd be a host testing a uploaded human, right?
Okay.
So it's not host-host, it's half human being tested by a host.
Because it kind of reminded me of like when we put Alexa and
With
then we have
Google
the HomePod,
Home,
and then we just made them talk to each other forever and ever.
Right.
I'd say it also reminded me of like the latest Blade Runner when they have the character K played by Ryan Gosling has the baseline test. That test reminded me a lot of what we saw with Delos, but then we're seeing it flipped this time too. And then you also have like Bernard's kind of self-discovery too, which I think Jeffrey Wright, again, such a big fan of his performance as Bernard, does so well, not throughout the season, but especially in this episode. And with little things like when they're like fake waterboarding him, like that is just horrible. And then you see him with excited to see Ford, but confused, but then realizing what's going on. And then even when he awakes from being in the cradle and they steal his head back up and like, I don't know, but then, like, hey, everything's fine. If something's missing from the cradle now, we can get back in, just all the way he reacts to that is great.
He's very good.
He's very good. I also just feel bad for his character. He's so confused. He's being pushed in a million, pulled in a million directions. Charlotte wants something from him. Ford wants something from him. And then he just wants to be nice to Elsie and kind of like not get her in the crossfire. So.
Elsie just wants to go back to dental school.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite lines too.
That was so funny.
But I think like
which is not a hard thing to get back into. I mean.
But I guess we're going from like robot host to like, yeah, you need a root canal? Sure, you know. But I wonder like, because we were saying that before that Elsie and Stubbs are kind of like the two human characters that you're like, okay, they're not the rich people, they're not like the middle management people, but they're the ones who seem to have the most morals, and yet I just want good things to happen for them. And the other character I'd really want good things to happen for is Bernard, because it's just like, will there be a point where his head is back to normal? And I don't know, I guess we're going to find that next couple episodes.
Yeah, I'm excited to explore more of like the split personality of Bernard and Ford. Ford kind of even takes over for Bernard when he like does what needs to be done and he kills the humans that are trying to, rein in Bernard.
He tries to not make him feel guilty.
Right,
it's like, this isn't your fault. And then it's just like this kind of buddy cop movie where they're just both shooting at
everyone. I think Ford cares for him. He wants to protect him. He
well,
sees him
does he though? Because
he sees him as his children. Like,
he's haunted by the blood stain of the woman he killed earlier.
Right, but Ford is like, I created you, and it's my job to like guide you into this new age of enlightenment.
And he's like, I don't want to be guided. I just want to be my own person.
Right, and I think we're going to see that split deepen as we move to exiting.
Nobody likes
Westworld.
a backseat host. Nobody.
Yeah, Ford, get out of here.
Yeah, but that also means Anthony Hopkins is at least back for at least another episode, hopefully.
So what is Ford's like goal? Like, so now he's out of the cradle.
Right.
He's out of the cradle. Do they want to go to this valley beyond?
And is the Valley Beyond actually the outside world?
Yeah, for a very long time I thought it was the outside world. But I also heard that it could be where other data is saved.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Very possibly. We saw it way back when, one of the original trailers, we saw Man in Black approaching kind of like a hole-in-the-wall type setup, like a door that kind of looks like the exit or entrance at the Mesa. Very similar setup. Maybe that leads to the Valley Beyond. Maybe that's a separate set of data or things like that. Or maybe, that's a separate way to get to the key. as we're now hearing more about. In
And
this
speaking of the
episode.
key, that was another
The
I think,
encryption
part,
key?
Yeah, the
Right. Okay.
the
Oh.
Abernathy's key, right?
Right.
So that was another like really intense set of scenes. Was both the Delos people and Dolores trying to get to the key.
Yeah, there was the touching father-daughter scene, which was really nice.
There was the robot threatening to open up a human's head with a skull grinder.
She's so tall. I didn't realize how much taller she is.
Oh, Evan Rachel Wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, and it was kind of nice to see Charlotte Hale's character, for once, kind of not have control.
Also, just seeing two strong women who are like leading their respective movements, kind of going toe to toe.
We see another two strong women later when we have the Maeve and Dolores scene, and she's like almost asking to, I want to put you out of your misery.
Do you want help? Yeah.
Do you want help? And
But she was all like, there's no way you would have ended up here without a fight. I'm like, aw, that's
Yeah.
nice. But she's like, bye.
But now that you're here, like I can help you. Yeah. No, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good, thank you.
And then, but going back to like Tessa Thompson and Charlotte Hale, I feel like it's weird because I love her as an actress and I like the character, but I'm still waiting for like that little glimmer of like, oh, you're not just a horrible person, because she's still a pretty horrible person as a
I
character.
think you're going to be waiting a very long time for that. I think she
Yeah.
is just a plain old horrible person, and that is her character. I'm not saying she doesn't have feelings and emotions and
No,
a
she
drive.
clearly does.
But her drive is never going to be that altruistic, I'm trying to help someone. Like, her drive is very obviously she wants this data and she wants to take it out of the park. And it's, how do I do that? How do I get there? Period. That's my one drive.
When I enjoyed like when Stubbs gave her a hard time, like, oh, it's above your pay grade. It's like, well, hey, I'm getting.
I want a raise.
I want a raise right now.
That was
Like,
a really funny one. Because he
I'm
was just
negotiating.
so frustrated. He's like, I just want to survive. I want to get out of here. And
Wanna
they're
get the hell
like,
out
no,
of here."
without this guy's brain. He's like, okay, let's just shoot it. Yeah. Well, I thought like it would have been smart of Dolores just to shoot his brains, Abernathy's brains out too, because I feel like if she got the key, they would be just following her around, and if she just wants freedom, then she should just like trash the encryption key and then just
Yeah,
leave. But
so
maybe,
we
maybe
see
she wants more than
Dolores
freedom.
take his control unit, actually his entire light bulb out of his head.
Yeah.
And I gotta admit, I don't understand why she kept it.
Yeah, why don't you
I
just
wondered
smash
the
it
same
to the ground
thing.
and be like, it's over. Everyone leave me alone.
There was a shot later when she's talking to Maeve and she looks down at it, and
Yeah.
granted, we're projecting our own emotion on it, but it felt like it was almost like a, not regretful, but like, is this the right move kind of moment for Dolores?
Maybe she just really wants like revenge on Delos, so she's going to keep it, and use it as leverage for
And-
something in the
But
future.
we don't even know what it is.
And we know what it is, and the
still.
other thing is like going back to earlier in the season to talk about Man in Black and Ford versus Ford. So there's that aspect, looking for a door, and obviously you need a key for the door. So what is this door?
Yeah.
Too many door metaphors. I don't get it. It's like the next episode's going to be about the knob that the key gets into,
And then the safety chain that's
yeah,
on the door.
and you need that.
Well, and so there's a lot that happened. There was a lot of violence, and we're gonna gloss over a little bit, but I just want to give like two like tips of the hat. Clementine, oh,
I know, in her blaze of glory. I liked it a lot better than the other woman.
Angela.
Yeah, that was like, it's just kind of slowed down the episode. I'm like, what is going on?
I love that.
actually, I
Really?
love that moment.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, but why did it slow down for you?
It was just really long. I kind of get where it was going. Actually, I thought she was going to put him in the thing and just like impale him and not blow each other up. But it was just like this long seducing thing, and I'm like, the guy is so stupid.
Well, that's why I enjoyed it, because it's like the guy's so stupid. It's like, kill her, you're going to die.
And then she like
Don't
touched
trust her
his
sexy.
gun. I was like, oh my god, this guy's an idiot.
Well, I think too, it's a perfect metaphor for like how the hosts are trying to escape. Like they could easily brute force these humans, and instead they're just trying to live and survive. And yeah, sometimes it means that some of them are going to use their feminine wiles to
Yeah.
trick someone.
But on the flip side, like, not to talk too much about Angela, but earlier we see her sneak up and do like, she's like the knife.
Yeah, she's like, "Meow."
bam, versus like, I feel like Clementine's just like gun, and then you have Teddy who's like headshot every time, bam, bam, bam.
yeah, one shot wonder Teddy is
Which I think is kind of neat.
Literally
just from,
killing
like,
it.
If you're like the violence choreographer on Westworld, I mean, no, each of them has a story, and you see they each have a different fighting
Yes.
way, and even with
Angela is definitely the spy.
Angela's, yeah, as I say, so you got that vibe, but then when they blow up, again, not to go back to Fight Club, it did have that end of Fight Club moment when all the credit card buildings are blowing up. It's just like, because Tessa Thompson, Charlotte Hale says, oh, wow, well, there goes your, we have your backups, and as long as we have that,
you
done.
can't go anywhere.
And then it
Like-
blows up, and it's like,
And Dolores goes, we didn't want those anyway,
Yeah.
you dummy.
Yeah.
That's not what I was here for.
And, like,
That's
they
were-
literally what was tying me to this place.
there's a chain, yeah.
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 It was good.
I liked it. That was funny. She's like, we have all your backup. She's like, keep it. I don't want it.
Give a
I don't-
crap. Yeah.
Start over as someone new.
Okay, so other people who got shot, Maeve and Man in Black.
God, Man in
Man in Black got shot a lot.
Lawrence.
This guy will not die. Honestly, I feel like he needs to win an award. And I'm like, this guy might be secretly a host. I'm kidding. I mean, that's
No,
like
you're-
not a theory.
I think that is.
I don't
that
think
is
you're
a theory.
alone.
There
Yeah,
is
that's a
theory.
very prominent theory.
It's like the Star Wars thing when the guards can't shoot straight.
Yeah, stormtroopers.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Like all the stormtroopers can't. We cloned
None
the
of
one
the
guy who can't
stormtroopers.
shoot straight.
Yeah.
And there's thousands of them who can't shoot
he's
straight.
getting shot a million times. I anticipated the daughter saving him, but she never came.
didn't come.
Which is
Although-
fine. 'cause,
But
like,
that was a great reveal because I think they knew we were anticipating, and then you saw the hand like, "That's Emily."
Oh, yeah.
Oh no, it's Lawrence.
Oh.
Yay, but,
But oh, that's not how we want you to be, Lawrence.
But also very cool that Maeve could not touch him.
yes, I'm very confused about this
Wait.
inconsistency about when her powers can work and when her,
I think she is too.
But
yeah, she's like, what? I
But
wish
here's the
it
thing,
was a
though.
little bit
She
more
did
relaxed.
touch him, not in the way we're thinking with the mesh network thing. She touched him doing the exact same thing Angela did to the other guy.
Definitely.
Just manipulating his emotion. And
Not manipulating. She just made him remember. Like,
exactly.
think really
Well, that's what I meant. Like,
hard.
he was going to shoot her, but he's like, think really hard, remind, like, going at it that way versus, like,
Yeah, she was just
point your gun.
supremely persuasive.
Persuasive.
And it
that
was
the
a
word.
good. I think it was a good question too because I was like, why hasn't Lawrence stopped and questioned his lawyer? Like, why are you following this guy around?
Yep.
But I guess people are kind of into their loops. It's like why Teddy and Dolores are always kind of together, and Maeve is back with her daughter. It's like you're kind of drawn towards your loop anyways, and maybe Lawrence just didn't stop and think like, why am I always following?
Right.
And we
why?
hear some of that in the Cradle too. That if they're supposed to be they're always consistent. That's why when something goes askew, they find a way to get back to that consistent behavior or that consistent outcome.
Is Maeve back on her own loop? We were questioning this before because she was back in the cabin or the homestead. The Man in Black shows up again, and she's all like, you, and he's like, you, what are you doing here? And everyone's just like converging once again.
It's very strange.
Yeah, I like that he was there and he wasn't even looking for her. He's just like looking around the house. He's like, oh yeah, it's you.
Oh, yeah. This
And
is
he's like,
okay.
stop this game, Ford. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I'm not for, dude. Like, I'm my own host.
But I also got like maybe it's like a predestination thing where it's like
Yep.
no matter what you do, no matter how many changes you have in your life, you're still going to have the same outcome.
There are
for the
certain
most part.
things, yeah, that will always happen.
So let's talk. Well, let's go back to Maeve for a second. There, when she got shot, that moment I didn't want her to die yet. I wasn't ready for that. But then one of my other favorite moments that happened right after that was when Lee's like, no. We need
She's
her.
special.
She's special.
Right, so
and
as
it
they
picks
come
up
to
her
save
head.
her, yeah.
There's like a turning point that's happened for Lee, and I didn't mean to talk too much about.
Well, I think the similarity too is actually between Maeve and Lee in that position is very similar to season 1, episode 10, Dolores in Teddy's arms, where Lee is like very lovingly, like he's picked up supporting her neck with one hand and he's grabbing her with the other, and you're very much like, oh, she's kind of like, oh, Lee, hello, this is weird. I hope she doesn't die. I'm going to be really sad and upset if Thandie Newton is gone.
Away, she has these crazy powers.
Right.
Unlocked so many achievement levels.
But he doesn't. He could have just let her die, though. I mean,
Right,
which
he
makes
even
you wonder why.
says, yeah, he even says, no, not this one, we need her. What does he need her for? Is it kind of like Dolores hinted at? Do they need her because they're gonna take her code and kind of use it to defeat the other hosts? Are they going to use it to investigate that mesh network and those powers, as we call them, that Maeve has? I think there's a lot of questions, and I think too, as we see Lee kind of hide from the Dolores and Maeve conversation, I think even he realizes, like, what am I doing with her? Like, why was I inclined to save her? What was my goal? What was I gonna save her?
Yeah.
Was I gonna let her go? After I patch her up, was I just gonna release her back into the Westworld?
And there is, in my mind, a parallel with the work that Lee's doing and discovering this with Maeve that Ford's character was doing with Bernard too, where there's a poetry to this. It's not just writing storylines and like great little quips for them to say in old-timey slang, I don't know. So that was
it's
a neat...
crafting the whole picture.
And there's a reason he's surviving. I don't know why he's surviving, but out of anyone, I wouldn't think he would have survived this long.
He's not good outdoors. You already said that.
He's not good anywhere, really.
Me neither, but I'm interested to see how it plays out. I think he's changed already. I think his perception and his, drives have shifted from me, money, to, oh my God, there's a whole big other world, both here and out there.
He's where Felix is like season 1 episode.
Yeah.
Bit,
Felix like, oh, thanks. Like, it took you this long to get a good human being.
But I think on the flip side, but there's limits to what Felix can do. And I think Lee has more power and more authority just from who he is.
I meant just like emotionally, like his affection for a host.
Oh, you mean just buying into it.
Realizing this kind of love, not for this like affection for these hosts. Like Felix had that with Maeve again, season 1. He's like, good, finally catching up.
It's Maeve.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go.
What about Man in Black though? Because then we see him kind of like 4 or 5 at least shots that seem to hit him, and then there was the one in the belly, which looks like that would be the death one, and he's kind of off the side there. What do we think's going on with him? Well,
first he hid from the commandos who were there to save them potentially. I mean, I know Lee called them in. They were really there to like capture Maeve and take Lee to safety. But that was the Man in Black's ticket out, or ticket to survival if he really wanted to take it.
I think he wants to die in the park, though.
Yeah. Like Emily said, I think this is his death wish, his final throws.
I guess he's having fun. I mean,
this
is what he wants.
Can I say this, though? Like, going back to the Ford and Bernard thing, they're talking about how they're doing this to learn about all the ways humans react to that. Who's been in the park the longest? William, or Man in Black. So you think that the file on him has got to be really long. So, I mean, and I'm not to say there are theories about him possibly being a host, which it could be that he would be the most realistic one, because there's probably no one else that we've seen that's been in the park this long.
Literally decades of loops and information.
He's at least 3 USBs of data.
Like 128 gig USBs. Yeah.
We got a lifer here. That's the one.
But moving on, what are our always will happen hopes for the next episode, or the next few episodes?
Well, we got to look at the next episode. We know we're going to see a lot
excited.
more.
That looks so good.
Ghost Nation.
Yeah. That's my exciting
Which
guess.
I am hopeful answers a lot of the outstanding questions from the first season. Like,
all the seasons have never touched upon all our questions about
all 2 of the
Ghost Nation.
seasons.
All 2 of the seasons.
We have 2 seasons worth of questions.
I've had a very long list about Ghost Nation, and it's just like, why does Maeve witchcraft doesn't work with them?
Why do they have mazes under their skulls?
Why
do they speak a language no one else knows?
But the daughter knows that. The Man in Black.
Because she spent time with them. Yeah. Why has no one else spent time with them?
Okay, I say this, like, what about the characters we didn't see in this episode? Because I feel like we didn't see Emily, we didn't see Sylvester or Felix, or we didn't see Armistice or the lady with the dragon tattoo. So obviously there is still a little bit of our existing story that might get resolved. And then on top of that, we have the preview, which I'm really excited about. The trailer looked amazing. And then we just have lots of little thematic things. Like, even if now we kind of figure out a little bit of the puzzle that they're using this for the humans, like, why? What does Delos get out of this? Does it go back to the original, like, Westworld and Future World with they're trying to like replace politicians with these hosts and stuff like that?
I mean,
or who knows?
Who was it? Ford that said, Delos was a businessman. He's not going to invest in something that's just for himself. He's not an idiot.
So it's not about the clones.
It's not. I don't think it's not about him. It's about the clones. But we need to be thinking more economically. Like, how is that going to benefit Delos and his company and his lineage?
As a business maneuver.
Right.
I guess it's just use your data. It's just all, they're collecting all this data so they could just give you more targeted beer ads.
Well, yeah, look at today. People collect our data to not just target ads, but also to predict our movements and think about what it is that we want. And, that level of prediction gives any company a leg up in selling you shit.
But if you could actually go, like, I'm going to replace Caitlyn with a Caitlyn host, and use that to manipulate somebody in the real world, that is where a lot of those thematic lines, metaphorical lines, and actual lines start realizing. I don't know if we'll actually get that far, or if that will even in this season, but it starts getting the bigger world as we see. I like that we're not seeing everything. I like that there's
No,
lots of
I
things
want
we
to
don't.
see everything.
I want to see
need
Viking
answers
World.
now.
Okay, so that being said, thanks for sitting in and listening to us jibber jabber about Westworld. If you want to find out more about Westworld, go to cnet.com/Westworld. You can also help us by clicking on that subscribe button, hitting the bell for the notifications and make it ring. You can also ask us questions on Twitter. I'm at Trick Holland.
I'm at Lin La.
I'm Miss CP.
And with our invisible drinks, we can toast Maeve and her baby.
Clonk.
Her child.
This feels like bad luck, you guys.
Clonk.
They're props. How do mine's? Mine's
I
not
guess
bad
because
luck.
she's not dead, so we shouldn't. We
Right?
could also host we could
Yeah.
also toast the actual dead, like Clementine and.
Yeah, let's pour one out for Clementine and
And
one out for Angela.
Angela.
Yeah. And the thousands of humans that died.
Well done,
And
Angela.
Lawrence.
And Lawrence.
Lynn, I feel like you just poured your whole drink out.
He's got one of those like German boots. Yeah.
I got to do the deed.